Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Vayechi, the last Torah portion in the book of Bereshit. We are concluding the book of Genesis, creation of the world. We've been reading about the Avot HaOlam, the forefathers of the world, the foundation of the nation of Israel. And now, the last 17 years of Yaakov's life, the happiest years of his life, the patriarch Jacob, reunited with his beloved Joseph, brothers living together in unity in the land of Goshen. And now this generation is drawing to a close, and Yaakov is going to bless and prophesize with his children all around him, prepare them for what lays ahead. And now the nation of Israel has really begun. The word Israel is the highest level that we are aspiring to, and that Yaakov / Yisrael personality moving back and forth. This is to become the template of the history of the people of Israel. And as we explore and begin to understand what really is transpiring in Parashat Vayechi, and how the whole enigma of the forefathers is now drawing to a close, that era, and what are the strongest life lessons that the Torah wishes to emphasize to us as the book of Bereshit draws to a conclusion, let's fast forward for a minute, leave Bereshit behind temporarily, and go all the way forward to Devarim, to the book of Deuteronomy, to chapter 6 and verse 4, where we read, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, Israel, Hashem, who is our God, Hashem is one. And this, of course, is the hallmark of the faith of the Jewish people. And when we reflect on the meaning of this verse, we understand Shema, as opposed to just listen. Shema means to focus your attention completely. And if I was to try and read the Shema with all the kavanot, all the intentions that are part and parcel of the experience of reciting Shema daily, if I was to recite the Shema and try to bear in mind all the different aspects of holy intention that one should have in mind when sanctifying, unifying Hashem's name in the world, what are the things that I would have to think about, and how long would it take me as I recite these words, Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. It's not possible to do it quickly. There's a lot of things that one has to have in mind. For example, we are completely focused on the idea that Hashem, who is eternal, who was and is and always will be, who manifests himself with midat harachamim, with the attribute of mercy, of loving kindness, and of course Hashem, that is spelled Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is the name of mastery, that he is the master of all, that he is also Hashem, our God, Elokeinu, who is eternal, the eternal source of all power, and also a reflection of the aspect of Midat Hadin, of justice in the world, that he is still Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, who is Rachamim, that even when I perceive things to be manifestations of din, of harsh judgment, everything is really for the good. Everything is a manifestation of the total, perfect oneness of Hashem. It's really all love and mercy, because there's only one God and there is nothing else. And I think about the large ayin and daled, the way the verse is written in the Torah, the way you can see it in a mezuzah. The final ayin of the word Shema and the daled of the word Echad are written larger so that they spell out the word Ed, which means that I am a witness, I am giving testimony, and I elongate the word Echad, the one, the Aleph, the one, and the Chet, the 7 levels of creation of heaven, the 4 corners of the world, again the Daled, and as Rashi points out, this knowledge that Hashem is the only true reality and one, this is the conception of the people of Israel, but one day he will be recognized as the God of the whole world. And I am prepared to focus on him completely, to love him, as the verse says. What does that mean? To focus on him more than anything else, with all my inner essence, with all my nature, with all my life, with all my resources. These are just some of the things that one has to have in mind when reciting the Shema every day. And the Shema Yisrael, again, Yisrael being the higher aspect of the persona of Yaakov that Hashem gave him. Yaakov has a very amazing connection to the verse Shema Yisrael and to all of these concepts. So in this week's Torah portion, Parashat Vayechi, again, Yaakov dies, Yosef dies, and that entire generation passes away. But of course, the soul of a person never dies, and the people of Israel live on, and the stage is now being set for the next generations to go through everything that they have to go through for Hashem's plan for them. And we've been learning the past few weeks of the amazing scenarios that have been established of how Yosef had to get all of his brethren down to Egypt. Indeed, Yosef had to get Yaakov himself down to Egypt to set the stage of the promise of the decree that Hashem had already made in the time of Abraham. And so a generation comes and a generation goes, and the plans have been set in motion, and the future is drawing nearer. But the Shema Yisrael spans all of these generations, and it includes all of us. And so no wonder this amazing and beautiful tradition that Yaakov was saying Shema Yisrael when he was first reunited with Yosef. So we read in last week's Torah portion, first of all, in chapter 46 and verse 29. Back in Parashat Vayigash, Joseph harnessed his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father in Goshen. He appeared before him, fell on his neck, and he wept on his neck excessively. Then Israel said to Joseph, "Now I can die after my having seen your face, because you are still alive." And so the tradition that our sages relate is that Yosef wept over Yaakov's neck, but Yaakov, the verse is in the singular, but Yaakov was not crying. Why, the tradition states? Because Yaakov was actually reciting the Shema. So this can be seen as something really difficult to understand. We know that Yaakov suffered so intensely over all of these years, and the one incomparable tragedy of his life was his separation from Yosef. And now that finally this impossible dream came true, and Yaakov was reunited with Yosef, it's time to recite the Shema. He couldn't do that a little bit later. Where is his humanity? Where is his affection for his son? But of course, on the deeper level, not only was Yaakov expressing the most passionate and remarkable and purest and most beautiful thanksgiving and gratitude to the Almighty, who is everything anyway, for this moment, but actually for Yaakov and for his relationship with the Almighty, and for his relationship with his son Yosef, and for his relationship with the entire world and how he perceived reality. For Yaakov, reciting Shema was actually meeting up with Yosef now and being reconnected with Yosef. That for him was like the living Shema Yisrael, because Shema Yisrael is a declaration that all there is in the world is Hashem, and that all there is in the world is Hashem's tremendous love and mercy for all creation. So his meeting with Yosef was actually a total validation, manifestation, and form of this Shema Yisrael, where instead of it being virtual, as it were, as it would have been if he had just been reading it, it was now come alive for him, and this was his living testimony. So, as opposed to this being some sort of religious fanaticism or some sort of extremely pious reaction, this was actually the most beautiful declaration of his love for Yosef, as being a manifestation of his being included of that love being included in his love for Hashem, which is really everything. So that's one remarkable tradition, that when Yaakov was reunited with Yosef, while Yosef wept and hugged him, Yaakov was reciting Shema Yisrael. But there is another amazing tradition that is ascribed to the most remarkable incident that our Parsha relates. And that is, as everyone knows, in this week's Torah portion, Yaakov was about to relate to his children everything that's going to happen in the end of days. Beginning of chapter 49, Jacob called for his sons and said, "Assemble yourselves, and I will tell you what will befall you in the end of days. Gather yourselves and listen, O sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father." And this is what we've been waiting for. This is now going to be the map, the guide for understanding everything that's going to happen from this point on until the end of time. All the indications, all the indicators, all the guideposts. This is going to be the ultimate app, and now we're going to be able to understand everything that's going to happen until the end of days. But for some reason, that prophecy, which was about to pour forth, was interrupted. And instead, beginning in chapter 49 and verse 3, we have the amazing, enigmatic blessings that Yaakov gave over to all of his children, which emphasize the unique individuality of every one of his children, his appreciation of their various attributes and how those attributes would play a part in the manifestation of everything that was going to happen, and in the roles that they would all play together as the united nation of Israel towards the end of days. But something seems to have happened, because this is not what the plan originally was. He wasn't going to be blessing his children, he was going to be sharing with them this tremendous revelation of prophecy. And the commentators are divided regarding the nature of these blessings. And some say that they are merely blessings, and some say that they are yet tinged with some prophetic meaning as well. But in any event, there is another enigmatic tradition regarding what was going on behind the scenes here, in the space in chapter 49 between verses 3 and 4. There is a space of something that happened which is misunderstood. And so our sages tell us that Yaakov was about to share this amazing knowledge with his children of everything that they would need until the end of time, and then this knowledge departed from him. He lost it. He had a disconnect. He had a senior moment. It was gone. It was taken away from him. And he was concerned when he realized that this happened, that perhaps his children were not found worthy in the eyes of Hashem to receive this information. Perhaps there was one or more of them that was not a team player, God forbid. Perhaps one or more of them had somehow, through his actions, disconnected himself from the body of Israel and could no longer be counted on to be a worthy vessel to play in this team towards redemption. And so our sages tell us the sons of Jacob indeed perceived that this was his concern. And so, in response, they recited to their father, who was lying on his deathbed, children of Israel all around him recited Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Listen, hear, focus, Israel, Hashem. Your Hashem is our God. It's the same Hashem who is one. And this was their affirmation that he was mistaken, that he has nothing to be concerned about, that that's not the reason, that for some reason Hashem wanted to withhold this information from him, but it wasn't because of any blemish that they were guilty of. And his response, according to our sages, was the classic response of Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is the name of the honor of Hashem's kingdom forever and ever. An amazing verse that traditionally is the response in heaven of the angels, a verse that was used as a response on a daily basis in the Holy Temple, on a different plane of reality. So again, it's a two-pronged tradition that connects Yaakov and his children to the recital of Shema at these most destiny-charged moments. The moment of the reconnection between Yaakov and Yosef, and the moment of the threshold of the revelation of what is to befall Israel and the world, all the events leading up to the Messianic redemption. There's another amazing lesson which is connected to these ideas, which is perhaps in its way the most important life lesson of all that Yaakov was able to give over to his children prior to his death here in our Parsha. And it's connected to this idea of the eternity, the messages of Shema Yisrael that reverberate in every generation. And that is when Yaakov / Israel, going back and forth between these levels of personality and these flashes of prophecy, between Yaakov and the expanded consciousness of Israel, who is the collective soul of the whole nation for all time. Yaakov is about to bless Yosef and his children, and Ephraim and Manasseh. And we read in chapter 48, verse 10, now Israel's eyes were heavy with age, he could not see, so he brought them near him, and he kissed them and hugged them. Israel said to Joseph, I dared not accept the thought that I would see your face, and here God has shown me even your offspring. And this verse, chapter 48 and verse 11, in the Hebrew reads, Vayomer Yisrael, the higher level of consciousness, El Yosef, Re'o fanecha lo filalti. I never, here the translation is, I never dared. I dared not accept the thought to see your face. Vehine, Hera oti Elokim gam et zarecha. But Hashem has even shown me your children. And this expression, Re'o fanecha lo filalti, I didn't think, because this pei lamed lamed root is really an aspect of thought on one level. I didn't think I would see your face, and wow, not only did I get to see you again, but I even see your children. God has even allowed me to see your children. It's translated here as, I dared not accept the thought. It's most commonly in most Bibles translated as, I didn't expect, or I never would have thought. And we can also successfully translate this concept as, I didn't dare to think this because I didn't want to be disappointed. It would have been a tremendous luxury for me in all of those years of misery and separation. I didn't allow myself to think that it was possible that I might see you again. How could I live with that disappointment? So I didn't dare to luxuriate in that self-indulgence that I might get to see you. But wow, not only do I get to see you, but what a blessing. Hashem even allowed me to see your children. But the amazing thing about this word, re'ofanecha lo filalti, I didn't dare to think that I would see your children, is that the same root of pei lamed lamed is the root for tefillah, for prayer. So Yaakov, Israel, is really saying to Yosef, in my prayers, I was afraid to pray that I would get to see you again. I was afraid to think it. I was afraid to be disappointed. I dared not accept the possibility. But it is actually an expression of prayer. And so what Yaakov is really teaching us here, what he's telling Yosef and what he's teaching all of his children for every generation, is that prayer is really a question of abandoning everything that is holding us back and allowing ourselves to expect, to accept, to wish for the impossible. That the true prayer is to pray for that which has no chance whatsoever. Re'ofanecha lo filalti. I wouldn't have allowed myself to think that I would ever get to see you again. What is real prayer? To pray for that which I would think, I'm not even going to bother him with that. There's no chance for that. Why should I deceive myself in thinking that such a thing could happen? No. Yaakov is saying, this is exactly what I was praying for. This is real prayer. And this whole parsha, concluding the book of Bereshit, is about bringing everything back to Hashem. Yaakov is now reunited with his family in Egypt. The theme of the renewal of their relationship is Shema Yisrael. That everything in this world is really a manifestation of Hashem. And this is the most important lesson that he's giving them now at the conclusion of this generation. Yaakov is teaching his children that Hashem is one, Hashem is in control, Hashem is everything. And also, Re'ofanecha lo filalti, that you are going to need to use your imagination. And don't be afraid to use your imagination, because that's what prayer really is. His reunion with Yosef is a metaphor for the fulfillment of prayer. And in the years ahead, he's telling his family, we're going to need that. We're going to need to know how to pray and how to use our imagination. And this indeed becomes the hallmark and the strength and the artistry of the Jewish people throughout the generations. And Yaakov said, I never would have dreamed. And next week, we'll see this new king arises that doesn't recognize any of this, doesn't recognize Yosef, doesn't recognize Yosef having saved his world. And we begin to hunker down into the Egyptian exile and prepare for redemption. Again, as we read these Torah portions, we are about to embark upon the greatest adventure of our lives as we realize that this hunkering down into the Egyptian exile is a metaphor for the quickly running waters of our own lives. And we ask, who is dreaming here? Is it Hashem? Is it his dream, or is it our dream? And our prayer is that he will let us be in his dreams if we let him be in ours.